Our planet Earth is more than just a big rock spinning in space. It's a living, breathing place with many different parts that all work together. Think of it like a giant machine or a complex team. To understand how it works, scientists break it down into four main systems. These systems are constantly interacting, and their interactions are what make Earth so dynamic. The four systems are often called the spheres because they wrap around the Earth. We have the geosphere, which is the solid part of our planet, the hydrosphere, which is all the water, the atmosphere, which is the air, and the biosphere, which is all of life. Each one has a specific job, but they're not separate. They're like pieces of a puzzle that fit together to create our home. Let's start with the geosphere. The geo part comes from a Greek word for earth. This is the part of the planet we can see and feel. The land, the mountains, the rocks, and even the molten rock inside the Earth's core. It's the solid foundation that the other three systems rely on. Next up is the hydrosphere. Hydro comes from the Greek word for water. This sphere includes all of the water on Earth, whether it's in the massive oceans, the quiet lakes and rivers, the icy glaciers, or even the water vapor in the air. The hydrosphere is always on the move, connecting different parts of the planet. The atmosphere is the atmo or vapor part. It's the layer of gases, mostly nitrogen and oxygen, that surrounds our planet like a blanket. The atmosphere is vital. It holds the air we breathe, protects us from the sun's harmful rays, and helps regulate Earth's temperature, keeping it warm enough for us to live. Finally, we have the biosphere, the sphere of life. Bio means life in Greek. This sphere includes every living thing on Earth, from the tiniest bacteria to the largest whales and trees. The biosphere can be found in all the other spheres, in the ocean, on land, and even in the air. The key to understanding Earth's systems is realizing they don't operate alone. They are in constant communication. Think of it like a group of friends. What one person does can affect everyone else. If one sphere changes, that change can ripple through the other spheres, often with big consequences. Let's see an example of a geosphere-hydrosphere interaction. When a river flows, it's the hydrosphere acting on the geosphere. The force of the water slowly carves away at the rock, creating canyons and valleys over millions of years. Conversely, if a volcano erupts on the seafloor, it adds new material and heat to the ocean, which is the geosphere affecting the hydrosphere. Here's a geosphere atmosphere example. When a volcano erupts, it shoots ash and volcanic gases high into the air. That's the geosphere impacting the atmosphere. On the flip side, the atmosphere is constantly wearing down the geosphere. Think about how wind and rain, which are part of the atmosphere, slowly break apart rocks and wear down mountains. The geosphere and biosphere also interact. A landslide, which is part of the geosphere, can suddenly destroy a forest and all the animal habitats within it, which is the biosphere. But living things also affect the Earth's surface. Plant roots, for instance, can grow into the cracks of rocks and break them apart, helping to create new soil. The hydrosphere and atmosphere are deeply connected in a process you already know, the water cycle. The sun's energy, which comes through the atmosphere, heats up water in the hydrosphere. That water then evaporates into the atmosphere. It cools, condenses, and falls back to Earth as rain, snow, or sleet, returning to the hydrosphere. It's a perfect loop of interaction. Now for hydrosphere-biosphere interaction. A big flood, which is a powerful part of the hydrosphere, can wash away entire ecosystems, destroying homes for animals and plants. In return, the biosphere can affect the hydrosphere. For example, a sudden bloom of algae in a lake can change its water quality, making it difficult for other living things to survive. Finally, let's look at the atmosphere-biosphere interaction. Without the atmosphere, we couldn't breathe. Trees and plants, part of the biosphere, use the sun's energy to perform photosynthesis, a process that releases oxygen into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere helps the biosphere in other ways, like when the wind carries pollen from one plant to another, helping them reproduce. Since these interactions are so complex, scientists use models to help them understand what's happening. A model is a simplified way to represent a complex system. It can be a diagram, a drawing, or a physical object. Our goal is to use models to describe how an event in one sphere can cause changes in others. Let's create a mental model for a volcanic eruption. The eruption itself is an event in the geosphere, but the volcano shoots ash and gas high into the atmosphere, changing the air. That ash can then fall back to Earth and cover plants and crops, affecting the biosphere. So you can see how an event in one sphere affects at least two others. Another great model is the water cycle. It shows a continuous interaction between the hydrosphere and the atmosphere. The heat from the sun causes water to evaporate from the hydrosphere into the atmosphere. Then, the water in the atmosphere cools and returns to the hydrosphere as precipitation. This simple model helps us understand a massive global process. Think about what happens when a huge forest is cut down. This is an event in the biosphere. But when the trees are gone, the soil, which is part of the geosphere, is now exposed to wind and rain, and it can erode away. And because the trees are no longer there to release oxygen, the composition of the atmosphere is also changed. This shows how a single action can have a ripple effect across all the spheres. Developing these models helps us think like a scientist. It forces us to ask, if this happens in one sphere, what will happen in the others? It encourages us to look for cause and effect relationships and see the big picture. An event is never just a single event. It's a part of a much larger, interconnected system. So as you can see, the four spheres are not separate entities. They're all part of one single giant system. An event in the ocean can affect the weather in the air, which can affect the plants on the land, which can affect the soil. Everything is connected in one grand, unified system we call Earth. In conclusion, we've learned that Earth systems are the geosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and biosphere. They are constantly interacting with each other in complex ways. By developing models of these interactions, we can better understand how our planet works and how events, big and small, can create a chain reaction that affects the entire world.